Hello, 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 everyone. I'm Doc Hogg, and welcome to Indie Comic Stream number 26. I've got my co-host Revolution here, also known as Alexander. How are you today, Mr. Cole?
I am amazing. How are you, sir?
Well, like I was bitching about at the beginning, just before we came on, I am a little fatigued, but been have a little caffeine handy, so I'm going to try to get through this, and we'll do our best. But a couple things. Let me get this. Let's get this started here. Just to mention, we're going to have in just a few minutes, we'll have Ryan Haack on to talk about Bric-a-Brac Part 2. Jeremy Lott and I reviewed Bric-a-Brac Part 1. It's a kind of it's a interesting take on a Christmas story, and we both enjoyed it quite a bit. So it's great that we're going to have Ryan on to talk some more about Part 2. Also, you and I a little later are going to be discussing Tainted by Dean Kish, and look forward to doing that. I actually, just very quick, I thought these comics were pretty good. A few minor things, but otherwise they were a good, quick read. So I hope you felt the same, but if you didn't, we'll find out soon.
Yeah.
So, and last thing I need to share here real quick is my comic book, Tilt Part 2. The sign-up page is live, has been for quite some time. The link to that is in the description below. If you sign up, you will be getting a free Tilt magnet with your purchase, but only if you sign up. And this is what the magnet is going to look like. I said a couple of weeks ago, before I'd actually come up with this, well, I didn't come up with it, my artists did, but before I came up with it, that the magnet would be awesome. And hey, I don't lie, this is going to be awesome. So a couple other quick things. Here is the cover of Tilt Part 2. And here is the first finished pinup that will be available. I like to call this Jessica with junk in the trunk, but it's I think going to be something you'll definitely want to have on your wall, although just a wall that maybe your kids are not privy to. But at any rate, yes, this has just been completed, and we also have. I'm going to have, again, a deck of cards this time like I had last time, but the characters are going to, the Jacks, Kings, and Queens are going to be custom designed this time. Lenore King, my colorist, she's doing the Queens, and she has finished all four. You've got here the Queen of Hearts. This here is the Queen of Spades. Then the Queen of Diamonds. And finally, the Queen of Clubs. And also, two of the kings are now finished. Actually, this is going to be, might be a pinup, might be a sticker. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this just yet. But here is the King of Spades. And here is the King of Hearts. So two more are finished, and yeah, things are shaping up nicely. And at this point, I'm not exactly sure when I'm going to launch. I was hoping end of September, but I'm thinking more toward early October. Probably is going to give me enough time to make sure everything's just really ready to go. So at any rate, we will be launching probably within the next few weeks. So but I would encourage you to sign up now. Alrighty, let's bring our guest in. Hello, Mr. Haack. How are you today?
Hello. Very good. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Oh, hey, you're very, very welcome. Thanks for being on the show. And let's before we get to your project here, and by the way, there is a link to Bric-a-Brac 2 in the description below as well. I would encourage you to back it, and if you haven't gotten issue 1, I would encourage you to get that as well, because again, this is issue 1 was a very good comic and very, very enjoyable, and something you could actually read with your kids too. I mean, there's enough there for both adults and kids, so very, very enjoyable. But this is a little something fun that we like to do, which I call this is our odd news. I always like to go to UPI and sometimes other sites, and Python turns up on Chicago Woman's Shock doorstep. Let me know if you can hear this. Let's see when it comes up. All righty, any moment now.
A slithery surprise that still has Kelly Bryant's skin crawling.
Even standing right here right now, I'm still kind of on edge. Anything wiggly, squirmy, worms, snakes, terrified.
So imagine her reaction seeing this.
Like, it's not just a garden snake.
Okay, now let me, as someone who actually used to own one of these snakes about 20 years ago, if you ever see a snake that if you ever see a snake like this, you should be about as scared of it as you would be of a common ant. Literally, if you see a snake like this in the US, it is somebody's pet that has gotten out. This is what's known as a ball python. They are native to Africa, but if they are domesticated from basically the time they are born, they actually make very good pets. They are very docile, and it was kind of a great pet to have because you only have to feed it once a week. It only relieves itself once a week. And then it only sheds every couple of weeks. And when it sheds, you're not picking up hair, you're just picking up skin. So if you see one of these, there's really nothing to be scared about. They always use these whenever they want to impress you in a music video with a snake. They'll bring these in. And of course, I now know better. And I'm like, dude, that you're not as tough as you think you are.
Awesome.
So at any rate, okay, let's go to this other one here. This was a 69.9 pound catfish. You think they could round up to 70 here, but this is what a 69.9 pound catfish looks like. Oh my God! Can you imagine trying to haul that in? That is a big one.
Holy crap! That sucker's huge.
Yeah.
Jesus, boy.
Do either of you know what it's called noodling? Either of you know what that is?
I do like ramen, but I've never heard of noodling before. So.
I haven't, yeah.
All right. This is a technique that they do in the South in certain areas where you will go into like a muddy pond or lake, and you will literally stick your hand into a hole in the lake that a catfish is likely to be in. The catfish then basically gobbles your hand, and you tighten your fist and you pull it out. I don't know why it's called noodling, but it's just
Who
and
was the first dude to figure that out? Hey, there's a hole in the ground. I'm gonna stick my hand in and see what bites.
Well, that is one of the risks. I mean, sometimes you stick it in there and it's not a fish.
I mean, all I can think about is
can you imagine trying to? Now, this guy, as far as I know, it says here he caught it with a pole. But can you imagine trying to noodle something like this? It's like, oh, I got a hold of something here. Woo, boy, that is big. All righty, and finally, while we're on the subject of fish stories, prosthetic leg found in California river returned to owner. Now let's see if you guys can hear this here. We've got.
Now to a diver's
Can you hear it?
unusual find in the American River, a body part, but it's not as gruesome as it sounds. It was actually a prosthetic leg that cost more than $10,000. CBS 13's Laura Hafley has the story of the lost leg now back with its owner.
Let's see.
Back with its owner.
Sunglasses, cell phones, a boat anchor. This was a light day.
Out there all the time. I'm looking for stuff.
Carl Bly dives in the American River almost every day.
Since the beginning of the year, we found 90 cell phones.
But earlier this month, he found something unusual.
I found a leg underwater. Once I got past the foot that's on it, a human-looking foot, I saw the mechanics of it and realized it was a prosthetic leg. And I just knew immediately somebody needed it back.
So Carl put it on his Facebook page, American River Lost and Found.
I posted about it, and by the end of the day, it had reached, I think, 60,000 people. By the next morning, over 100,000 people.
And finally, the post reached the owner.
He came down right away to pick it up. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Went on and on about how he needed it to get back to work.
A lucky day. Carl Bly says the prosthetic would have cost its owner nearly $15,000 to replace.
That's the most expensive thing I found this year.
Carl's advice for swimmers and rafters.
If you're bringing something valuable on the river, make sure it floats.
Yeah, that's some good advice. They said American River, right?
Sunglasses, cell phones, a boat anchor. This was a light
American
day.
River,
Out there all the time. I'm looking for stuff.
Carl Bly dives in the American
Yeah,
River
yeah, it
almost
was.
every day.
Now I don't know exactly. Did they say was this anywhere near? Yeah, no, this was near. It looks like it was near Sacramento because I was actually on that river kayaking. A week ago Thursday, when I was out there in California last week. A friend mine lives in Sacramento, and I went up to visit him, and he took me out kayaking on the river. And it is kind of important. If he told me at one point I needed to take my glasses off and put them in this little slot that he had because we were going over some rapids, and he said, and the other thing was that if you fell out of the boat in the rapids, do not try to stand up, just float, because if you try to stick your feet on the legs while these rapids are yanking you along and then your foot gets caught under a rock, you're going to have problems. So, but yeah, I just I was actually a little disappointed in this story. I was hoping he would actually be out there casting a pole and pulling this up.
That would be awesome.
Well, yeah, it would. And you'd be like, oh God, where's the rest of it? Oh crap. All righty. Well, let's move on to Bric-a-Brac here. Do you have a page that you want to share, or do you want to just you could
just scroll through. Yeah, there's nothing in particular. Yeah, just.
All right. Well, tell us about Bric-a-Brac 2. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it's a direct sequel from number one. Direct sequel, literally picking up immediately from where the first one ends. And it's in every way what Act 2 of a story should be, I think. The characters are tested in many different ways. There are new characters that we meet and are introduced to that make the plot and the background story to the Planet Christmas. It's a little more complicated. We find out more about why the war happened. We were kind of dropped right into it in the first book, but we do kind of understand who are the main players and how are they involved. And it's really, it's 30 pages. So we have a backup story and we have 25-page interiors, maybe even another backup story. I'm not quite sure yet about that. I would love to do another one. I have one in mind, but this is, really just kind of a great, I really enjoy it because I feel like the characters will be at their lowest at the end. I mean, obviously it's going to end happily because issue 3 is going to be, a resolution. It's a children's story, but, we're going to add some conflict, some difficult obstacles for the characters to have to go through. Obviously our main character's on a journey. There are many obstacles in his way through the dangers of Planet Christmas for him to get to his goal, which is to find Father Christmas. And and a lot of new characters like this one, Jack Frost. Who?
Oh, that's okay.
Yes,
I was thinking the snowman guy, but
Abominable Snowman, right?
Not Frosty,
right? But he is absolutely Jack Frost, and he actually the backup story is called The Tragedy of Jack Frost. So we understand he has a big role in the story in terms of the actual creation of the war, and so his story. I think people will he's kind of like a martyr. People will kind of sympathize for him. He's looking kind of for redemption because he's made a lot of mistakes in his past. So I think his arc is kind of complex.
This is nice.
Yeah,
I like the art. This is really, really nice. Wow. Yeah. Wow. I love the motion's very exaggerated. You really get a sense of the kinetic, the weight and stuff. And I like the use of dimensionality, the way that certain elements stick outside the frame to really give that kind of 3D pop. One question: did you read the Artemis Fowl books as a kid?
Sorry, the what?
Artemis Fowl by Ewan Colfer?
No, not at all. No, I'm not familiar with those.
Yeah, wow, I'm surprised. Well, yeah, definitely get your hands on those because it just the whole idea of like a single planet devoted to a holiday. Like I have to ask, like, are there So is this like a magical universe that's on a parallel to our own? Like, are there solar systems devoted to the holidays to the other religions? Like, how far has the universe of this whole thing been thought out? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I mean, the idea was basically to create a planet that really encompasses all of Christmas. I haven't had any ideas really for the other holidays. It's not like the Nightmare Before Christmas where they kind of exist kind of in like the same plane, I guess. But it is basically just a planet that's devoted to all things Christmas, whether they be different, holidays within Christmas or associated with Christmas. But again, it's the idea of making a world, fleshing it out. And, with a lot of these Christmas movies, whether it's Rankin and Bass or whatever, you see the snowy Christmas world. Well, with this one, we want to have like beaches. We want to have volcanic, Christmas world. What does that look like? Or under a Christmas Lantis, which is underneath Planet Christmas, and the Nutcrackers invade that. And so,
really,
yeah, it's a lot. Just trying to really flesh out a world that exists, and that was the attempt. Again, I would say a huge inspiration was Nightmare Before Christmas. Definitely the whole vibe of, even though it's only for like 5 minutes that Jack is in that world, I think that's one of the parts that fascinates people the most about that movie, is how like people want to explore that world. What is the Christmas world like? What does it look like? How does it feel? What are the other areas? What are the people who live there like? And so that was kind of another attempt at, with this story too, is kind of, thinking more into that. I've always admired that scene, and I wanted to expand upon it in my own way. So.
That's really cool, and I'll be right back. Go ahead, Dave. I didn't get some more.
Hey, sure, go ahead. So what's going on in this little panel here? Who are on the horses? And I mean, they look kind of threatening. That doesn't mean they are, but
that is good. That is Good King Wenceslas. It's another character that's introduced. He has kind of a different goal. He's religious. He's very religious, where a lot of these other, so we're trying to encompass a lot of elements of Christmas, right? So it would kind of be weird if we just had just normal Christmas. There's also people who hate Christmas, people who love it. There's totally a group of people who have tried to disassociate themselves from everything Christmas. They want to live a normal life. I mean, it's just like our world, where there's people who have different, not everyone agrees on the same thing. So he is really into this idea that there's going to be this, Christ figure that's coming to Planet Christmas. And he thinks that Garrett is that figure. And so he's going to try to capture him, basically. Garrett's not that figure, but he thinks he is. So that's kind of another plot within issue 2. We're basically being introduced to, Good King Wenceslas, Jack Frost. And then in issue 3, we'll get to meet the Ghosts of Christmas Past, Present, and Future more. But we really have already met them, because the Ghost of Christmas Present is the narrator of the story. So it's kind of just peeling back.
So you are going to have a third issue, because that was going to be my next question.
Yes.
Earlier you said something about issue 2,
right.
You didn't say bring it to a conclusion, but whatever you said hinted at that. But so I wanted to know, there is going to be an issue 3 then.
There will be. It was the initial plan to just have 2. But I did a campaign that would add the both of them together. But it didn't into like a compendium, or just a collection, right? And it that was in May, and it didn't really work. It was going to be about 70 pages. I found myself having to kind of make some, I guess, like take away a lot of pages that I think were necessary to there's a lot of characters in this book. I want to cover a lot of things, so. I want to make sure I have enough time to kind of talk about what I want to talk about, have the characters have their moment. And so I was finding myself having to cut those moments out, and it just wasn't right. And so I felt that this was the great approach. And another great approach with this is you get to make multiple covers for the books, and then you get to have all these different covers for the different villains or the heroes. And so I think that's another great aspect, and you can use that for anything. Bookmarks or T-shirts, or I just think it's a better approach all the way around.
Very nice. Okay. What are these characters here? These are
just some inhabitants of a jungle in the
Gotcha,
planet Christmas.
gotcha.
They're not important. They're just monkeys.
Yeah,
and then
I was going to say without an issue 3, I mean, you're certainly introducing some quite a few plot threads here, and I was like, is he really going to be able to wrap that up in just issue 2? I would actually be impressed by that. But,
that would be difficult. Yeah. I'm definitely going for 3, and then with 3, hopefully we'll have 2 backup stories because I think they're just really helpful in trying to expand. I think they're just great because I want to have one where we get to see Father Christmas, at his, because he's the best warrior in Planet Christmas. And I want people to be able to see him go to town. I mean, he's definitely a pacifist, but I would love people to see him just go to town on, whoever he has to do. But yeah, I have a story in mind for that. There's a lot of great backup stories are a great opportunity to just kind of explore those little moments that people are interested in, characters that people really want to know about.
Yeah. You got that same nice art. I just, it's not my usual comic book art, but I really like it for this kind of a story. And I mean, it's got just enough, you're using, I mean, the shapes that he's using here, and, they don't come to a lot of points, where the lines meet. He's got these kind of rounded edges for the most part. It just, I really like that kind of art in this. I mean, there are some points, obviously, but I like that. It just feels very fluid in a way, and would take that for whatever it's worth. But
no, I feel what you mean. Well, actually, this is drawn by. There's 2. There's the artist who's doing the backup story. He does the covers. His name is Tom Barton, and he's very complimentary to Raphael's art. But Raphael is doing the interiors as always. But yeah, Tom, he does the covers. He did that page. He did the Jack Frost.
That's a nice splash page, like that.
Yeah, and that is going to be an exclusive poster. That will be.
Outstanding.
Yeah, so that is a poster that you can get.
Poster or a pinup?
A pinup, basically. Okay, it's a pinup, but it's I really love that one. And yep. So we just kind of like
if I could get this as a poster, that's actually something worth. That's nice enough. I wouldn't mind framing that. So, but who knows? Maybe you'll get a DM from me saying, I could pay for shipping and have it as a poster. So, but
I love that because Jack Frost. He's a very tragic character. And in this, I mean, it's as tragic as he could be in this book. It's a children's book, but he made mistakes. He's a character who I think people will sympathize with. And then we have Garrett, who's just a young kid who's totally, he's never experienced this world before. So him meeting a character like this, who has a lot of, a past that's very complicated. It's kind of cool.
Now, okay, so you're closing in on $2,000, not quite. It looks like you're over 20% of the way there, which is good. Now, how many? Do you have only 29 days left, or do you have?
I have only 29 days left. Yeah, I just extended, so it was a battle getting to 20%. But
wow,
it was a battle. But I think we can make it happen. If I just push really hard, I think that there's a lot of people rooting for me, rooting for this to happen. I think.
Now, just to let you know, I've actually got a list of YouTube shows on an Excel file. A lot of the ones that I went on when I was pushing hard for Tilt. Why don't you DM me your email when you get a chance, and I'll shoot that over to you, so you'll kind of know, you'll have a list of them to contact if you need it. Maybe
I would absolutely need that. Yeah, that is a great way to make it happen. I've been learning, the next time I do a crowdfunding, I need to make an email list. 100%. That is
a lot of them you contact via Twitter. I don't have their emails, but I have a few of them are emails. Most of them are you're able to contact via Twitter.
I mean, it's like for customers, or like people who want to buy the book. That's what I mean. It's like I'm just talking about ways of getting the news out to people. I think.
Gotcha.
And I think the importance of getting eyes on the page, I've learned, or on the website, I've learned is really important. That might be the most important. You know, like each day you should probably have a goal of at least 100 people looking at, and using the analytics is important. Like it's a tool. And
how do you use it?
Well, I just try to make sure that I have 100 people every day viewing the site. I don't look at the contributions. I think the most important thing to me is well, obviously contributions are important, but I think getting it in people's face is really important. I think that's where this campaign stagnate, is when you're not finding new ways to get it in front of people. So I think that's the most important.
Do you mind divulging some of the ways, some of your secrets?
They're not great, obviously, but Twitter, doing it like twice a day, or getting on shows, obviously, and then. Sure. When I first ran the campaign, I used to think, oh, Christmas, I should go on Facebook and get on all these Christmas groups and they'll totally back my book. Well, no, it didn't work. Because on Reddit, people think, oh, this is a specific niche audience. I'm totally going to be able to sell my product. Well, you get banned immediately when you're selling something that's yours. They don't want that. They get that all the time. And so it's hard, man. It's rough. And I think people have shown paid advertisement. I've never done it, but I think it's a worthwhile investment, especially if you have a lot of friends on Facebook that are into comics or just in general. I don't know. I think just reaching out to people who your family, I know that sounds but like every time I do a campaign, I reach out to my family and be like, hey guys, I have this. And usually they help me kind of get it up, maybe to the first couple percents, but like I always tell my parents, and whenever they decide to do it, whatever. But it's just there's so many different ways, but I obviously not skilled at it. But I think again, an email list is critical. Like, sure. And the people who have the most success I've found on Kickstarter or whatever are the people who go to cons, make a list, and then they grow their list, like Jason Brubaker or someone like that. Like he's built his list to a point, and this is evidence as the campaign he just launched, that he's built his audience to a point where he knows he's going to succeed, and he has at least 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 or 5,000 people on his email list. I mean, he's going to succeed. So it's just like it's that kind of thing. And I don't have that, so I need to build that. And so you have to build like a mini empire, I feel like.
Yeah, well, that's very true. Why don't we, Alexander, are you back yet? 3, 2, 1, no.
Yes, I am. You should be able to hear me.
Oh, outstanding. Why don't we play your video here?
Sure.
All righty.
The Nutcracker's War has left the
able to hear
inhabitants
it?
of Planet Christmas hopeless and desperate for heroes. Dozens of provinces and villages have been taken over by General Almond and his evil soldiers who aim to rule the planet and capture all the Christmas spirit that's left. But out of nowhere, a new hope has arisen. Our young hero Garrett is on a quest to find Father Christmas, who he believes is the only man that might have the power to dismantle the war completely. Garrett, and a leader of the small but mighty Christmasville militia, could be the only chance the planet has at returning to its jolly old self. But several questions remain. Where's Father Christmas, and why has he not stopped the war already? Who is Jack Frost, and what dark partnership did he have with General Almond? And what evil lurks behind the drawbridge of Castle Wenceslas? Raphael Sam will once again be the interior artist of this second issue. I, Ryan Haack, will continue to write the story, and Tom Barton, our great cover artist, will draft the 5-page backup story, The Tragedy of Jack Frost, as well as drawing the variant and main cover of the second issue. Bric-a-Brac is back and better than ever. Please help us make this a reality.
Nice.
Very nice.
Tell us just a little bit about some of the tiers here.
For sure. You got digital. You can get the digital for number 2. And the digital for 1 and 2, or the digital for just 1, because number 1 is an add-on for every single perk.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So basically, you can do that, and then we have physical. We have a physical, obviously just the physical for people who just want to go very basic, and then we have a you know, because we already launched issue 1, so we have a dual, a bundle, I guess you could say. And so those are both together. And then we have like I said, the bookmark, which has an exclusive bookmark with a new character on it. The pinup, as I mentioned before, and then issue 2, and you can add on issue 1 if you'd like. That's the Bric-a-Brac Deluxe. Then we have just one with a shirt added. We call it Super Fan. And so if people are interested in getting a shirt, which I am, I would love one, because I would love to have a shirt that has my own thing on it. That would be really cool. And then Create a Christmas Character returns. We had it last time and people really liked it. And with it, not only do you get to create a Christmas character, you get all of the tiers. So you get Bric-a-Brac 2, the pinup, the bookmark, the shirt, and then the character, and then again a sketch with 2 Bric-a-Brac 2, the pinup, the bookmark, and the T-shirt, and the create a character. So we're trying to give people a good deal with the perks there, because I think people really what I really like about the create a character is that, and I've mentioned this before, but there's so many factions, and it's a war. So basically, there's a lot of faction. There's a lot of people who are fighting against each other. And so there's a lot of opportunity for people to create their own characters, and we can put them in, and it's just really cool to see that, because, people, you point it, like I zoom up on it and show them, and they always love it. And it's just great to kind of do that. And, obviously the characters should be appropriate for the story, but it's just really fun to, I had one time this dad buy that tier for his 2 little girls, and they created these characters, and they really loved it. So it was a really cool thing to have, I think. And it reminds me that this is a book that the community made possible, which I think is really important. So
all righty. Any other questions for him, Alexander?
Hold on, there's a helicopter near me. No, nothing I can think. Well, actually, no. Well, so what was it that got you into comics in the first place?
Into making them, or just in general?
In general first, and then in terms of making them.
Yeah, so in general, I would say the New 52 comic books. It was around that age when I just started looking at them, and there was a lot of good series from the New 52. The Batman is obvious, but it was a really good jumping on point. The Justice League was good. But that was, I would say, my jumping on point into comic books. And then I started, from there, I really liked Grant Morrison. And then from there, you go to the independent things. And it's just kind of like, now I'm reading things from the past that I've never really gotten into before. Just like, I really want to read, I'm just really digging into the past now, because there's so many things I haven't been able to kind of appreciate. So, right now I'm really into Bernie Wrightson or whatever, these old artists that I'm just like, wow, this stuff is amazing. And so that's kind of what I read in comic books and stuff. But into creating them, basically I just started going online and basically asking people to collaborate. I have a series called The Unspeakable Text, where I literally collaborate with people on 3-page stories. I find them on station and collaborate with them on small stories that aren't a huge commitment. That's the point. And then I letter them myself, and then we just put it out. So in January, or in February or March, we're planning on launching another one, and it's hopefully going to have 25 to 30 stories in it. I've been working really hard to make it happen, and I have a lot of great stories, and I'm super excited. We have a website up if you're interested, and it's linked on my Twitter, but that's kind of how I got into it, because when you start out, you don't have, I'm making, paying for these pages out of pocket. And so when I first started, I really didn't even have money to do that. I was in high school. And so, I just started collaborating with people online who wanted to maybe do some sequentials and never really got the chance. So it was cool to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All righty. Anything else you want to say about your comic before we move on to reviewing Tainted?
Not really. I appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you guys having me on here for sure.
Oh, well, you're very welcome, and yeah, thanks for stopping by, and good luck with the campaign.
Absolutely.
All righty. Okay, hang on here. Sorry. All righty. Okay, let me bring up. Tainted here. Tainted is written by Dean Kish, and illustrated by Francois Valmoria. And there are 2 issues out now. And it basically follows the story of a young girl named Creek, who was a cheerleader, and then her boyfriend died in an accident. She was also involved in the accident. And she has gone from being a cheerleader to really almost being like a goth. And something has gone wrong with her mind. In addition to the depression and funk she's fallen into, there's something she can, for example, see these scars on people that aren't really there. They represent something else, and we haven't learned what those are just yet. But she eventually encounters this gentleman by the name of Octavius Farisi, who is tracks her down to tell her that she is something known as a seer, and she eventually goes into training with a friend of hers by the name of Jericho, which is something Octavius urges her to do. And she gets these weapons known as tonfas, which are these kind of nightstick with blades on the end of them, and she is going to be pursued by something called the I think it was Vitiate, which is basically this kind of secret conspiracy, some order that came about during Roman times, and he's talking about it here, and they never really went away. And I guess overall I liked it. I mean, I thought the art was good. I thought the story was pretty easy to follow. And yeah, why don't I, before I get to my criticism, why don't I give us your thoughts.
So I had a chance to do a brief read through of the first and second issue before the first one went walkabout somewhere in my living room. So the issue that I had was that I was having trouble trying to figure out where exactly the narrative of the story was trying to focus, because I felt that the in terms of interesting story points, I think that the story could easily have focused on, what happens when someone who's presumably normal suffers an emotionally traumatizing event, without having to throw in the tertiary stuff of all of a sudden they have secret powers. Because I'm neck deep in the second one right now, and I'm still quite confused as to what's going on.
Yeah, I can see that, because, like, for example, the Vitiate, which it seems like they have some sort of magical or mystical powers, and the story kind of hints at that a little bit, like they're going around looking at the world looking for artifacts of power. But why? I mean, okay, there's this secret conspiracy, but it's not entirely clear why they are much of a danger. Secret conspiracies are a dime a dozen.
Yeah,
it's like, well,
most comic books.
Yeah, and most of them never. Well, in the comic books, they always amount to something, but most of them are just and most of them turn out to be not much more than rumors. But so there's definitely that. I mean, I actually found the story easy to follow, and I have to admit, I liked her losing the boyfriend at the beginning, because right off the bat, now I care about her. Okay, we can all understand, losing a loved one and that throwing you into just an unbelievable funk, and so she's really an underdog, and you do want to root for her. Now, a couple things. She does seem to start to kind of come out of the funk very quickly, kind of in issue 2. It's not like she's still. I'd like to see her struggle with that more, because it's like, it's like a sudden turnaround, right?
Mhm.
And the other one is that I just, each one of these comics was 20 pages. That is one of my pet peeves these days, is a lot of comics, especially in the mainstream ones, is rarely more than 20 pages when, a couple decades ago you'd buy one and it could be easily 40 pages. But these are only 20 pages, and you're basically taking 2 issues here to more or less set up the story. And if you're only getting issue 1 of this one, you're like, I'd actually would have been. I mean, I'm glad I got them both at the same time, because if I'd only gotten issue 1, I would have been like, do I really want to go on to issue 2? I mean, what's really drawing me in? I mean, okay, Octavia shows up, and that's about where it ends in issue 1, and I didn't. Now I want to see what happens after issue 2 now, but it's like, I think this would have been worked just better, maybe mixing it into one comic around 36 pages or something like that. Because if with the way one is right now, it doesn't really make me that terribly interested in issue 2.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is that when you reduce the size of a comic, granted the constraints in terms of the story's scope, it forces you to be more efficient, but it also means that you have to try to cram more into less space. And again, given that I come from more of a print media perspective than comics, I know that when you give a story a chance to breathe, it makes it a lot easier to consume a large amount of information, because both of these books have a huge info dump. And I mean, like by page, where is it? 1, 2, by page 4, you've got these people in these caves, and it's like, it's all so fast, and there's a certain, you know what I mean? So it's very, very hard. That suspension of disbelief. The more stuff you cram in there, without allowing people to make it click, the harder it is for people to really get invested in the story.
Yeah. No, I agree. And overall, I did like the comic. I did like the art. And there is potentially good story there. But you're right. I mean, a lot of it you tend to cram a lot more in. And there's some things. I mean, we don't fully understand what exactly is the power of the Vitiate. Is it does it have magical power? If not, then you could send in a battalion of police to arrest him.
Yeah,
they're not really much of a threat. And you don't now. I understand you have not fully revealed what being a seer is. That's fine. I mean, you can reveal that later in the book, but at this point, we don't fully. You get the sense he's gonna reveal more about the Vitiate in issue 3 and what their powers are. Okay, fine, but you can still give us a little hint that these are more than just mere mortals going into that. And as I said, also, her character just kind of flips very quickly from this really down, depressed, into someone who's really getting into the training. And I think it would have worked a little better just to see her kind of struggle with it.
But
saying, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of this? Because at the beginning, it's like she's like, what's the purpose of life? Is she's in one of those moods. So bring that into the training as well, and make it so that she's trying to overcome the funk.
I mean, mental health should not be made into a transition. Where it shouldn't just be, oh, she's depressed for 5 seconds and all of a sudden now she has cosmic powers. It's like,
well, it can be a transition. It has to be a more gradual one, though. Something like, because someone who has mental health issues, it is, I can tell you, there is a transition to getting well. But it's a long one, and it's always an ongoing process, because you're going to fall into your funks at times, and you have to figure out ways to climb out of them. as you get older and you get better at it, you climb out of them faster. But she's, very young at this age, and like I said, the transition needs to be something gradual, and it's something you can bring back too, because she can always fall back into a funk. So at any rate, like I said, overall I like the comic, but you've pointed out some problems with it. I have a few problems too, and so I'll just say this: I'm glad I got issue 1 and 2 at the same time.
Yeah.
So. All righty. Anything else you want to add?
Nope, nothing I can think of.
All righty. Well, that's good then. We will we'll call it here. And thank you very much. And thanks everyone who showed up. And we will be back next week.